Hello family, welcome back to another YouTube video. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Lucy Brown. I surely do hope that you enjoy this video, and if you do enjoy it, please do make sure that you consider becoming part of this family by hitting the subscribe button down below. Please do also make sure that you give this video a massive thumbs up. Remember, liking the video just basically helps YouTube to recommend this video to a larger audience. If you'd like to be notified whenever I upload new content, you are more than welcome to smash the notification bell down below. Well, as you've seen from the title of the video, today we are talking about father wounds slash daddy issues. And I think it is a reality for a lot of South African children or South African people to grow up in homes that do not have present fathers, right? And present fathers can look different for different scenarios. For me, I did not grow up with my biological father. I've never seen him physically, I've never met him physically. So I know for some people, they physically grew up with a father figure or their biological fathers in their house or in the home, but they weren't present fathers in their life. I mean, there's a difference between the two. And so what I'm going to be sharing today is my experience with father wounds or daddy issues. I'm not so sure whether I should title it or whether I should say I've got daddy issues or father wounds, or should I say I had, because I want to believe where I'm at right now, I have healed a lot. I truly don't know if it is complete type of healing, where when I think of the person, I'm just like, that I'm fine. When I think of the person, I am fine, but I'm just like, should this person come and try and make amends, I don't think I'm at a level where I'd want to have a relationship with the person, at least not at this age. And I think maybe you'd understand. Let me just get right into the video and right into the story, and maybe you'd understand why I don't see us having a relationship, and I don't even know if it could possibly get to the point where we'd even be speaking about us having a relationship. Anyway, let's get right into the video. So I previously mentioned that I never grew up with my biological father. I never knew him. I just remember thinking a lot about my biological father, about my father when I was young. I used to dream of a day where I'd finally meet this man. I used to dream and think to myself, one day he's gonna come back into my life and he's gonna be like my child. I've missed you so much. I knew that you existed, but I've been looking for you for a long time, and I finally found you. And then it would be like happily ever after type of vibes. So when I was young, I'd always daydream, about the moment where I'd finally meet him, and then that we'd be reunited or united. And I used to love the song by Luther Ross, Dance with My Father, because I used to think, and I'd be like, oh my, one day I'd get to dance with my father. One day maybe he'd walk me down the aisle, and all of those things, and just basically catch up or try and play catch up for the times and for the moments and the special moments that he missed out in my life. Only to find out some people says that Luther Ross weren't even speaking about his father in that song. I don't know, but I'm not there. So that was me. I always thought to myself that one day I'm gonna meet him, and it's going to be all good vibes. And so my mother never ever had a conversation with me concerning their relationship. When I do remember that there was a time I kind of asked about it, and then she'd just get angry about it. She'd get angry about it and not want to speak about it. Just to give you a little bit of context, my mother is a Xhosa woman. I love her so dearly, but I do want to say, and this is not the truth for all women who fit within this tribe, but the women, especially the traditional ones, that fall into the Xhosa tribe, they aren't very good at expressing their feelings at all. Actually, they don't express their feelings. If you are a child, you are basically supposed to know your place as a child, and there's certain stuff that you don't ask your parents. And if you do question them or ask them about certain stuff, they'll just give you this look. There's this look they give you, and you know from there that it's just a no-go area. So I knew that, that it was just a no-go area to speak about my father and what happened and the events around it, because when I did try and ask her once, like, it didn't end well. She was like angry and she didn't even speak to me for like a few hours or something. Yeah. And so I remember there was this show called, or there is a show called Kumbile Kaya. Kumbile Kaya, if you don't know, this is basically televised, or a show that's basically aired on TV, where you can write into the show looking for a relative that was once lost, or a relative that you can't find, and they basically help you go and find the person. So I always thought to myself that I'm gonna one day write into the show and they're gonna help me find my biological father. But when I saw how my mother reacted towards the situation, I just thought to myself, let me just put it off for a later time in my life. Maybe when I'm older, maybe she'd be a little bit much more warmer to opening up about what really happened. So I thought to myself that whatever happened to them must have been like really deep for her not to want to share it, right? And then as I got older, as you get older, like life, life has its own experiences that can kind of shape the way you see stuff, shape your thinking on stuff. But I never truly had like a healthy male figure that I could look up to throughout my whole upbringing. The male figures that were around me were drunkards. Like, they just weren't a good example. And as I grew up, going into my teen years, I just remember that I had a lot of trust issues when it came to men. And I thought to myself, if my own biological father could not stay long enough, or could not stay in my life, like, how am I expecting a boyfriend, a friend, or any sort of relationship with the other gender to kind of like last in my life? So I truly did not have any sort of faith when it came to relationships with the other gender. And I truly did have, I had deep, I don't want to say hatred, but deep anger. Cause at some point in my life, I thought to myself, when my mother actually met my biological father, she was actually staying with my granny. And my granny has been staying in the no, she was actually staying with her aunt. And her aunt has been staying in the very same place since. They just basically moved like few years back. Not only that, my granny does not stay far from my mother's aunt's place, and my granny still stays in the same place. And so it doomed on me, and it came to my realization that no, if this person really wanted like to be part of my life, and if this person was really seeking after me and looking to meet me, or looking for me, basically, he would have found me, because the same place he knew my mother, where he met my mother, or the same place he knew my mother to be residing, like, there was no changes. So I thought to myself that no, that means that this person intentionally does not want to know me, because had he had the intentions of finding me, he could have easily found me, because we had not moved. And when that thought like seeped and sinked into me, that's when I just thought to myself, like, this man, like, I have no respect for him. I frankly hate this person. Like, I don't want anything to do with this person. Right? And that also obviously translated to the type of relationships that I had with men. I just didn't trust men. And like, it was so weird, because like, you're such a young child and you don't trust men. Like, where's it all coming from? I didn't understand where it was coming from then, but now in hindsight, I kind of understand why I had such a bad relationship with men. And that not only translated to the type of relationships that I had with physical men, but it also translated to the type of relationship that I had with God. Because God is always sort of identified as a male figure, as a father figure. My relationship, I felt like there was like a hedge or a barrier in terms of my relationship to God, because I felt like I could not receive any sort of love from the opposite sex, because my biological father, who is the person who should love me and be here for me, could not do that. And that obviously speaks to the level of knowledge that I had, to actually think that my biological father or any sort of physical relationship with a person supersedes my relationship that I had with God, just because they gave birth to me or just because they flesh, you know. And then I met my pastor, my back then pastor, and I feel like when I met him, he played such a fatherly role in my life. And I finally sort of understood what a father's love was like. And that translated to me then being able to believe and receive of God's love. I used to hear that, yeah, God loves me, and I'd be like, yeah, God loves everyone. But I just didn't feel like it was personalized towards me, right? And my then pastor like showed me so much love, and he played such a fatherly figure. I remember the first time when he actually identified that I actually had, you know, father issues, and I had these issues that I was dealing with. And he said to me one day that I love you, you know, and obviously he was not saying it in a romantic way. And he used to constantly, oftenly remind me that I love you. And the first time I actually heard that from him, I literally cried. Like, I cried because I had never heard that from the opposite sex, especially from a person that I now could view as a fatherly figure in my life. Like, I cried because I just, yeah, it was just different. And I always say that, well, I don't always say, but let me just say, that I don't want to sound as if I'm downplaying the love that my mother gave me. I mean, my mother, she did the best that she can. And I also don't want to downplay the love of a mother, or the love and sacrifices of a single mother trying to grow up, you know, these children. But I also do want to say that it's just not the same as a fatherly sort of love. And hence, I think it's so important for a child to grow up in a home or in an environment where they're able to receive healthy love from a mother and healthy love from a father. So that type of experience that I had with my pastor playing a fatherly role in my life did kind of usher me into an experience of then being able to receive and wholeheartedly receive love from the opposite sex and from God as well. But now that I actually think about it, I've always felt, especially when I was growing up, I always felt like I needed to belong. I felt like I had no identity. And to some extent, I felt like if my biological father was around, I'd feel some sort of identity. And maybe I'll speak about it in a different type of video. I grew up in a type of setup where I literally lived with everyone in the family. And I think I've spoken about this. And it was a good experience, and I don't want to bash anyone because, you know, everyone did the best that they could. But I just remember feeling like I needed to find my identity, and I felt like I don't have anyone who has my back. I'm literally my mother's only child, and it's just me and her. And I don't know why, I just felt, I knew my mother had my back, but I don't know why I felt as if I needed like my father, that if my father was in my life, he'd have my back. Because that's not necessarily true, right? There's people who have biological fathers or fathers in their lives, and they still don't have their back. So I guess I truly was searching for something that was beyond what a human being could give me, and that's only found in the Father, or, you know, in the Lord. But that's not to say that, you know, I was not craving a father's love. And that was one of the reasons why, when it came to marriage, one of my requirements, when I thought about choosing out or picking out a potential partner that I'd want to spend the rest of my life with, one of my requirements was that you need to be a man of integrity. And I just always thought to myself, a man of integrity to some extent spoke about whether, regardless of the relationship status of you and I, you'd still pitch up and show up for your kids. So I always thought to myself, should anything happen in the future, where me and this man, and this is way before I met, my husband, this is just what I used to think. Should anything happen where maybe things don't work out, we end up divorced, or whatever the case may be, I just want to know that you'd still play, the role or pitch up for your kids, regardless of the status that you and I's relationship is at, and I know, obviously, and I knew that you can't guarantee humans 100%, but I was willing to, go the extra mile to make sure that I am at least convinced of the person's character, that they'll be in their children's life. That really truly mattered to me, and it still stands till today. So fast forward to now, when I was an adult living on my own, I go visit my mother this one weekend, and she's like, Lulu, don't you want to, write into the show and try and find your biological father? And I'm like, surprised, because I knew very well that it was just such a sensitive and a touchy type of issue for her. But at that point, I just had so much hatred in me, and I basically repeated the very same story that was in my head, that if he wanted to find me, he would have found me. And my mother could see that there was just so much hatred and so much anger that was filled in me when I spoke about the situation. And I felt like at the time she won't truly, or she'll never truly understand what it's like to grow up without your father, because she always had a father in her life and she was quite close to her father. And when I was born, I didn't have the opportunity of then having a relationship with him. So I just felt like she never truly understood where I was coming from. So this one time, another time actually, I decided to go visit my mother, and my mother tells me, what, I actually think I found your biological father on Facebook. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, like I recognize, I searched his name on Facebook and he came up and I found him, and I'm pretty sure that this is the guy. And so at this point, I'm conflicted, because I'm just like, now I know his name, his surname. What am I to do with this information? And, I was just like, no, I'm not interested. I just don't want to open up that chapter in my life. And then I leave, go back to my place. And now, that curiosity was just like killing me. And I thought to myself, let me just go and, check him out. So, I found him, or found a number of them, sent a screenshot to my mother, and my mother confirmed which one of them. Guys, you won't believe what I found out, or I'll give the disclaimer once I've revealed what I found out. So I found this guy. Looking at this guy, he's happily married. Well, seems like he's happily married. Has 2 kids. It's just like, looks like perfect family type of vibes. And I found out that actually he's a pastor, has his own ministry, and is still based in the province where my mother and I relocated from. And obviously, because with church ministries, when a person is like the main founder of a church, normally like there's contact details to contact the main pastor, all of that. Now I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, at this point I'm actually even more angrier, because I'm just like, in my head, I thought to myself, like, it would have been explainable if this person was not born again, or if this person did not know God. It would be explainable of why he didn't come and look for his child, because according to me, and according to the little bits that I heard of the story, and didn't hear it from my mother, heard it from some people speaking about it in the family, it just made sense that if you knew that you had a child somewhere and you decided to move on with your life, you probably don't have, or you probably don't know God, or you're probably not born again. Because if you are born again and you do have the Holy Spirit inside of you, the Holy Spirit convict you to kind of go and make amends. Like, and there I'm sitting on my bed thinking to myself, this guy, like, how possible is it that he has the Holy Spirit? Yeah, I am judging. how possible is it that he has the Holy Spirit and yet he goes on living his life as if a child just vanishes, you know? And I think to myself, okay, fine, what am I going to do? Take the numbers, decide to save the numbers. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call this guy. I'm going to call him. Decide to call the guy, called him. And when I called him upon the first call, when I mentioned my mother's name, he's like, I don't know who you're speaking about. And now it's so awkward because, like, when you call a person, like, how do you even begin a conversation to say, oh, I'm Lucy Brown. Okay, Lucy Brown from, you know, like, I don't even know what to say because my mother went by so many names. She had so many names. I don't even know which name to present to him. She didn't even remember, like, what name, you know, what name he probably knew her as, because my mother has so many names and so many nicknames. And then I thought to myself, and then he was like, can I call you back because I'm, you know, kind of busy. I'm like, fine. He calls me back later and he's like, oh, actually, I actually remember that there was a story that surfaced regarding me being a father to some child. Well, he didn't say some child, but he was like, oh, I actually do remember let me just say a Lucy, referring to my mother, that she was pregnant and there was something like that, but, you know, it never really went far. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the way he was like, oh, like, how do you forget something? Like, I don't know. I'm probably judging, and yeah. And he was basically, before we even went into the story of what really happened, or let me just summarize what this person said. This person basically had said that he basically knew about it. She told him about it. He came to my family and his family actually asked for a DNA test. And now, if you know, back in the years, and especially in black type of families, like, asking for a DNA test was an insult. There was no way they were going to allow you to actually successfully take a DNA test. They were basically going to give you an alternative, or an ultimatum rather, of saying it's either you agree that this child is yours, and if you want us to go to the root, or the root via a DNA, just rather stay out of the child's life. It's fine. We'll raise this child for ourselves. So he says that that's basically what my mother's family did. That when his family asked for a DNA test, they basically said, no, that's an insult. You're insulting our daughter. You're insulting our family. And you know what? Quite frankly, we will grow up. We will grow up this child on our own. And he says that's basically how the story really ended. But not only that, this person was like asking me questions about, like, are you working? What's your highest qualification? Is your mother married? How many kids she has? And I just felt like the questions that he was asking just gave off vibes that he was trying to sort of gauge where am I in life, or where my mother and I are in life, to kind of sort of determine of what's my motive of me making this phone call. Am I trying to, like, make money out of him? Am I trying to, you know, because after that he's like, no, I need to speak to my lawyer or something like that. And I'm just like, but how is that relevant to what we're speaking about, you know? And one thing I need to actually mention is that I actually thought of texting him, right? And I thought to myself, no, he actually has a wife and kids right now. And I felt like it was just going to be kind of disrespectful, or, you know, to text and have the possibility, for crying out loud, I didn't even know if that was his primary number. I didn't know if maybe there was someone, his PA, who was actually handling that, you know, that phone or that line. And I thought to myself, let me just rather call, because I don't want a situation where perhaps the wife, you know, reads the text, or someone reads the text and they know nothing about that. And I thought that's not fair. And hence I was considerate enough to actually pick up the phone and give him a phone call so that I could directly speak to him. And he said basically, yeah, he said he needed to speak to a few people before he gets back to me and all of that. And it gave off vibes that he was basically saying that before I actually tell other people, my wife, about this, I basically want to keep this between you and I. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And then he called me back and he was like, you know what? I actually want a DNA test. And I'm just like, okay, the second time around. But I was actually not offended at that. I actually don't have a problem with the person asking for, a DNA test, because I don't know the nature of the relationship that him and my mother had, right? And I think it's fair for him to ask of a DNA test. And so I agreed. I was just like, yeah, I don't have a problem. We can do the DNA test. So for him, for the sake of, keeping the situation, should I say a secret, or keeping the situation enclosed, if I can put it, or keeping the situation private, yeah. For the sake of keeping the situation private, he said that he'd fly, to Joburg. I was living in Joburg at that time. He'd fly to Joburg and then we'd get the DNA test done, you know. And I was like, I think it's quite fair. I don't expect you to then, rope. Well, I think you should tell your wife about the situation. But I weren't expecting anyone to like kind of come out and meet me and be like, oh, what. Whereas you don't know whether I'm your child or not. And so till today, guys, till today, this is like literally like, I want to mention the number of the years later, but it's been years later. I am still waiting for that person to basically come and get the DNA test done. But I just felt like, you said you guys wanted a day, you guys, you and your family wanted a DNA test then, and my mother's family said no. And today you're asking for the same request, and I'm granting your request, but still you're not doing your part of what is just, And I feel like, and I kind of felt as if back then, was that just an excuse? Because I mean, you were also coming from a black family. Was that, or you understood the dynamics of within a black family? Was that just an excuse to kind of like get my mother off like your back type of thing? Because I feel like that's just generally how I felt, that back then it was just an excuse. If it was not an excuse, you would have done whatever it would have taken to make sure that you just get this out of the way. Not only that, I just feel like when you are a person of integrity, especially in the position that he is, especially in the position that he's in the fact that he's a pastor. What if I was like those type of girls that were like bitter, and I decided to preach at the church one day and I'll be like, yeah, this person, blah blah blah, and all of that. I'm just like, are you willing, or I was thinking, are you willing to put so much at stake, whereas you don't even know me or the type of person that I am? If I was that bitter, if I had that type of character, like, are you willing to tarnish your name, than just do the right thing, and that's basically it, guys. That's how it ended. And I thought to myself, I was deeply hurt, guys. I don't want to lie. I was deeply hurt. And not just the thing that hurt me the most was the fact that this person shared a spiritual relationship with me, in the fact that they are born again. And that truly hurts the most. Like, there's so many things that I can like bypass when it comes to people who don't know God and who are not born again, because I'm just like, at the end of the day, there's so much that they can do, or they're good to a certain extent, has a limitation. And so I can excuse a lot of things that they do because they don't have that conviction of the Holy Spirit within them. Now, when you're born again, like, that was truly like my issue. And the disclaimer that I actually wanted to give is that I'm not then going to say that all pastors like now are, evil and all of that, because I mean, I'm married to one, and I don't believe in identifying or labeling everyone according to one person's mistake, right? I believe that each person should be able to prove themselves, and if you want to put a person through the test of being trustworthy, we should at least give the leeway, or at least give the long rope for their character to go through the test, right? And I feel like that's what I in the short period of time, I feel like that's what I basically did. I gave him the opportunity to prove his character, and I feel like personally that his character, yeah, I think it's quite yeah, quite whatever. And so I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to delete this person's number and I'm gonna cut off this person, because I just felt like it was just not fair to like just keep me hanging like that, up until you decided that you wanted to come along, or not even at least update me to say that, you know what, maybe, I don't know, finances. It didn't seem like finances is a problem because the person seemed sorted. But I was just like, but I was willing to pay for, I didn't have a problem with that. Just communication to say this is the issue. I know for some people, their situations, the dynamics of their families are different, that you sometimes it's hard to tell, your now spouse that, there's a situation like this. But I feel like that's where integrity comes in, right? Integrity means that you'll still do the right thing, even when you don't feel like doing it, or even when it's tough, or even when you don't have much reason to actually do what's right. And that is basically it. And then one day this person randomly calls me and is like, oh, why did you delete my number and all of that? And I was just like, no, I, respectfully, just, I don't like the way you did things and all of that. And the person apologized and all of that. And that's just basically where it ended. I just decided to just block the person's number and move on with my life. And the moving on with my life, guys, it's almost as if that situation like took me back a few steps back, actually, because I didn't actually realize that it hurt me so much. I kind of felt at that moment, I felt rejected all over again. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, all this time I was right. This person was not looking for me. He's not trying to make, amends with me. He doesn't want me part of his life. That's obviously me. Not only that, this person had actually disclosed that they had other children outside, or I don't want to say outside the marriage, but they had two other kids that were not from this woman. And that on its own kind of made me feel somehow, because I felt like you playing a present father figure to the kids, to the kids of the woman that you're with. But the ones that you are, or the woman that were a part of your previous life, or you're not with anymore, like you aren't a present father. Like, do we still call that, like, do we still call you a present father, if I can put it in that way? I don't know. And it just made me think of how I've heard of the saying that a man will only love, or a man will love the kids of a woman that he loves. And so if he doesn't, if he's no longer into you and he doesn't love you, he's going to portray it through the kids. And it made me feel somehow, and I guess it kind of did make me judge him and conclude that clearly you're just not a person of integrity. I mean, it's a person's decision whether they want to display their other kids and all of that. But for me, it just gave off vibes that you were just present to these kids of the woman that you are currently with, and I stand to be corrected there. And because of the way things played out, I just feel like I don't see myself having a relationship with the type of person like that. And I'm speaking for the future. That's obviously, like, I don't know, guys, I don't know. It really did truly break me down. And those scenarios I would create in my head as a kid, that one day it'd come back and we'd have this magical, beautiful type of relationship. Like, all of that just made me like realize that, no, girl, like, that's not gonna happen. That my story, that I've heard of other people's stories, that they ended so well and so beautiful, and the father was looking for them for years, their mother was looking for them for years, and now this person is truly working hard to rebuild the type of relationship, and mine didn't end in that type of way. And I don't know whether the situation, whether the story is open-ended in a sense, and open-ended because anything might happen today or tomorrow in the future, right? But this is me truly sharing my experience for also someone who finds themselves in a position where they truly do need to forgive someone who deeply hurt them. At times, the closure that you're looking for, the apology that you look, by the way, I never got any apology. The apology, the closure that you're looking for from baby daddy, baby mama, mother, father, or anyone truly who hurt you so badly, sometimes it's just not gonna come. So waiting around and thinking this person's gonna finally come to their senses, that they did you wrong or what they did was not okay, and all of those things, it's just going to hold you back in a lot of areas in your life. And I know healing is not perfect, healing is not linear, but you just need to begin the process, right? And when I speak of forgiveness and also healing, I know it's not a once-off thing where you just like, I forgive the person or I'm healed today. Because there's some days and there's some things that truly do trigger those feelings or do trigger those memories that just, at times can, make your heart feel a bit disheartened. But you need to start that progress in order for you to get to a place where you can healthily speak of the matter and of the situation without feeling hurt as per se. I think it's perfectly normal to grieve hurt and to grieve a relationship and to grieve a relationship or grieve something that you thought it would be. I think it's perfectly okay. But there needs to come a time where we pick up ourselves from that grieving state. Because what happens is that when you're harboring this unforgiveness and this hatred towards this person so much on you, you then carry the burden that was meant to be carried by this person. So you need to offload yourself of that burden by putting yourself first and by beginning your journey of healing. I think it's so important, if you are a Christian, to also remember that scriptures do require and ask of us to show forth the fruits of the Spirit. And I know that when it comes to healing, it's just not as easy as saying like forgive because Christ, commands you, requires you to give. But I think having the mindset that you were also once at a place heavily in need of forgiveness and grace from God, and it was extended to you. I think just to put ourselves in the situation to say that I was also in a place where I was in need of grace and forgiveness, and it was shown towards me. And so I need to at least be willing to embark on the journey of getting to a place where I say I can forgive this person. I'm not holding on to that feeling and trying to caress ourselves with that feeling, whereas it's not doing no good to us, it's just doing harm. And I know, guys, everything that I mentioned is one-sided in a sense. It is my experience, and for some people, when it comes to these type of situations, it can be one-sided because I don't truly know what's going through in his mind. Someone might say that what if the situation is so hectic that he's caught in between type of thing, So I don't want to put it off as if what I'm saying is the gospel and it's the truth. Rather, it is my truth, right? It is me sharing my perspective of where I'm coming from, my experience and how I see things. I think once you've put in yourself in a position where you finally decided to let go of someone in your heart, there's literally nothing the person can say or do that will impact you or affect you to that level or as deep as they previously did. And so I think it's truly helpful that at times let go of people off of your heart. Yes, they might come back years later and say whatever and all of that, but that's just making sure that you're protecting yourself and protecting your heart from someone else's actions. So yeah, guys, I'm actually gonna end it off here. Please do make sure that you share this video with someone that you know that perhaps might be in a situation where they're truly struggling to sort of forgive or to get on their journey of forgiving. I mentioned that it's okay to grieve what a relationship could have been, any type of relationship. But at the end of the day, once you're done grieving, look onto God, because he truly is capable to even help us to overcome those situations and get us to a healthier place where those situations are now helping us to then view life at a better lens, to then know the type of things that we want out of relationships, to then know that I'm not then going to go and be in a relationship or have babies with a man who's not a present father to his kids and think that when I have kids with him, he's going to be a present father. When we go through situations and hurt, it's not so that we are then able to bear much more hurt or be prepared to be hurt much more. But rather, when we go through hurt, it's actually supposed to, I actually think that it's actually supposed to improve our lens or our view on life and know what we want and what we don't want. So for an example, for the fact that you grow up in a household where you don't have a present father, and that's the reason why you then attract guys who are never ever present. They're neither here, neither there. That's the reality of a lot of situations in society, and that's the unfortunate truth and unfortunate sort of situations people find themselves in. In a perfect world, that type of situation would empower you to then know, I definitely do not want A, B, and C because I saw it, or I didn't experience this, and that's why I want it for my children, and that's why I want this quality or characteristic within my home. And truly it is my desire for us that when we go through situations that truly hurt us, that we get to a place where we allow that hurt and allow that situation to basically carve us into human beings that truly want to be better people for ourselves, better people within our community, and better people within our relationships. Please do also make sure that you give this video a massive thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Remember, liking the video just basically helps YouTube to recommend this video to a larger audience. If you have not done so by now, please do make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. You're welcome to hit the notification bell down below if you'd like to be notified whenever I upload new content. Please also leave a comment down below and share with me, what was your relationship like with your father? Did you have a present father? I mean, if you were privileged to not even have a biological father, but they still stood in the gap and came through for you like a father, please do make sure that or please share the experience if you would like to. Yeah guys, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you on the next one.